Hey guys, my name is Vishal and I welcome you all to yet another session by Edureka. In today's session, we would be focusing on Microsoft Azure. And while we do that, a main topic of discussion would be Azure Portal, where we would be exploring Microsoft Azure's console. But before we do that, let's take a look at the agenda or the offerings of today's session first. So first and foremost, I would start by talking about what cloud computing is and what Microsoft Azure is. Then we would get into the main topic of discussion, that is what is Microsoft Azure Portal and how it works. So let us start by understanding what cloud computing is. So first and foremost, let's take a look at what the definition has to say. It says it is the use of remote servers on the internet to store, manage, and process data rather than doing it on a local server or a personal computer. And it is absolutely correct. So basically, what is happening in cloud computing is you are moving your on-premise resources applications to cloud. And why do we do that? Well, this is the reason why we do it. What cloud does is it provides you on-demand self-service, broad network access, resource pooling, rapid elasticity, and measured service. Now, again, I've talked about or mentioned quite a few terms which might not be that easy for someone who's completely new to just go ahead and digest these terms. So let me just simplify the definition of what cloud computing is. So when you talk about cloud computing, basically what you're doing is you're computing in general. I mean, when you talk about software development, your main concern as a software professional is to ensure that you have applications which are up and running. Maybe you might be focused on developing those applications and ensuring that the end customers get to use those applications and the whole process runs in smoothly, right? Normally what happens is all these things, they happen on premise. You have your in-house infrastructure where you have your servers, you have your RAM, you have all that is required for software development. You have it on premise or in your in-house architecture. But the problem with your in-house architecture is it does not give you scalability. And even if it does, there are some cons to it. I mean, you have to ensure that your application has to go through the modifications, the changes that are needed. And apart from that, these changes can be costlier because servers are very costly and buying these servers is not an affordable thing. So how do we tackle these things? How do we tackle all these issues? Well, this is where cloud computing comes into picture. What it does is it lets you actually go ahead and rent certain services and use them to meet your particular needs. You can rent these services just like you rent electricity. I mean, what do you do with electricity? You have your telephones, television, your computer, everything running on electricity, right? All you do is you probably plug in your ports, switch on the button, and the electricity flows in. It's not your concern whether who creates the electricity, how it is created, who maintains it for you. All your concern is actually just going ahead and paying in the bills at the end of the month. You consume certain units, you pay for those units, and you utilize the electricity. When you talk about cloud computing, what it does is it lets you use various computation, storage, database, all these services on rent. So you'd be using these services and you'd be paying the vendor only for the resources you use and only for the time duration you use these resources. And that is why cloud computing ensures that one, you do not pay too much money on your infrastructure, and two, it ensures that you do not have to invest more resources into basically monitoring your work, and you do not have to worry about these things because your cloud vendors would take care of all these things. So this is what cloud computing is. It is more of a pay as you go model, but for computing. And what it does is it ensures on demand self service, broad network access. The best thing that you can see in the first or the above definition is your data lies on cloud rather than on your local server or your personal computer. That means there is a server placed somewhere where your data and your applications reside. So if you have to access these resources, you do not have to actually physically go there and explore or have access to those resources. Instead, you can access these resources from your local computer. So yes, it is an on-demand self-service with a broad network access, which can be accessed from anywhere you're based at. It lets you have resource pooling, rapid elasticity, and measured services. So yes, when you talk about monitoring, whether you talk about upscaling, downscaling, ensuring robustness, security, and all these things are taken care by your cloud vendors or your cloud service providers. So this is the basic definition or an introduction to cloud computing. In case if you need more idea about what cloud computing is in general or in detail as well, you can visit our YouTube channel where we have quite a few videos that talk about cloud computing and topics or the subjects that relate this particular domain. So do give visit to that YouTube channel. you might find quite a few resources that would help you in a better way. So the next topic of discussion is what is Azure? So I've just talked about cloud computing, right? And I've talked about certain vendors. So when you talk about cloud computing vendors, one of the popular vendors is Microsoft Azure. So let us try to understand what Microsoft Azure does in particular. Let's go through the definition. Let's try to understand what do these pointers mean, and then probably see how we can relate to the actual concept. So if you go by the definition, this is what it says. Microsoft Azure is a set of cloud services which help you organize, manage, or meet their particular business needs. What it also does is it ensures that you have the freedom to build, manage, deploy your applications on massive global network, and it lets you do that using your favorite tools and frameworks. Let me give you a clearer picture on these things as well. As I've already mentioned, Microsoft Azure is a cloud vendor or a service provider. They provide you with various cloud computing services. Now, these services encompass from services like computing, storage, database, monitoring, compliance, security, and various other services. If you talk about anything that relates to computing, almost everything is taken care by this particular vendor, whether it's analytics, whether it has to do something with marketing, creating chatbots, IoT. Well, it has room for most of the needs that you might have for computing. So if you talk about Azure services in particular, there are some around 100 or more services that cater all your needs. So you might want to again visit Azure's website as well and take a look at those services. As we get into the portal part, we would be taking a look at some of those services as well. So yes, it provides you with various services and it gives you freedom to build, manage and deploy your applications on a global network. That means you probably might be residing in some country, maybe say India, and you wish to build your applications and host them in USA. You can do that by using a cloud platform and you do not have to go to USA. You can do that by being in India. So it gives you this freedom. Why? Because all you need to do is you need to go ahead and launch certain instances, spawn certain instances, put data on top of it, put applications on top of it, and your application and your business model is up and running. So it is that simple. I mean, you just call in certain services and you make use of those. And how is this possible? It is due to vendors like Microsoft Azure. Plus, it lets you use the tool of your choice, framework of your choice. The fact that Microsoft Azure itself has a huge stack of products, it lets you readily integrate all these tools into this framework or into this domain. And you can actually use all those tools on your cloud platform. If there are certain open source tools as well, Microsoft Azure probably is more capable these days to incorporate those tools and services as well. So if you're working on something in some programming language, on some framework, probably you can move the existing work on your cloud as well. You might need to get into the details of the documentation process, but yeah, that is possible as well. So this is what Microsoft Azure is in general. I just talked about the fact that how easy it is to actually go ahead and carry out your business processes or computing processes on Microsoft Azure. So what makes it this easy for you to actually go ahead and use all these services on this particular platform? Well, one of the major reason is its portal. Azure Portal actually helps you do a lot of things that basically simplifies your work of cloud computing. So let us just go ahead and take a look at what this Azure Portal does. Before I start about Azure Portal, I would like to inform you that we would be opening Azure's portal and then we would be understanding what this portal is, what are the services it helps you with, and how it actually relates or combines all the stuff that cloud has to offer to you. So to do that, let me just quickly switch into the console part and we can just get started with the remaining part as well. So guys, what I've done is I've gone ahead and I've switched into Microsoft Azure Portal. So for people again who are completely new to cloud computing, they might ask as in what is this Azure Portal and how do I get to this portal? So this is what the link is. It is portal.azure.com. If you are a completely new person to this particular page or this website, you would be required to sign in and create an account. Now, as you can see, I already have an account here. It is a fresh account. The reason I've chosen a fresh account is I wanted this dashboard to be clean so that we could go through certain pointers. However, there are certain applications that are running which would help us to understand certain pointers which otherwise you wouldn't have. So this is a perfect account for me. Apart from that, if you need to have this account, as I've already mentioned, you would have to go ahead and create a particular account. How do you do that? You visit this link, that is portal.azure.com. Once you do that, it would ask you to sign in and put in certain details. So when you do sign in or sign up, you'd have to enter certain details like your email ID, contact details, and why do you want to use this account. One pointer you need to consider is Microsoft Azure would ask you to enter your credit or debit card details. Now, do not worry, they do not charge you unnecessarily. What happens is this is a free tier account where Microsoft Azure would give you certain credit limit, maybe 12,000, 15,000, something like that. I do not remember the exact number, but it is somewhere around 10 to 15,000 in that range. 10 to 15,000 Indian rupees, because I am based in India right now, so I'm talking about Indian rupees. When you talk about it in dollars, I think it is somewhere around $200. So based on where your account exists, in that local currency, you would be given certain amount, which you can spend for 1 month and use all these services for free. So yes, you have sufficient time to explore all the resources. What Microsoft Azure does is it asks you to enter your credit card or debit card details. That is, once you exceed these limits, you might be charged, because all these services have a certain cap on that. Don't mistake it for the fact that you'd be charged, because these limits are fairly high and probably you won't be charged in any way, but still you would be wanting to get through the documentation as in how much would you be charged. But before that, I would suggest that you actually go ahead and enter in all these details, create an account, and once you have an account, probably you can go through the pricing models as well to avoid getting billed in case if you actually go ahead and exceed these limits, which is very less likely to happen. So that being said, we have an account. If you do create an account and sign in, this is what your interface would look like. And this is something we call it as the Microsoft Azure Portal. So let us try to understand what does this portal has to offer. What are the components that are there? Now, as you can see on the screen on your left hand side, you have all the services that are listed. Now, these are the most commonly used services. When I say services, most of them are domains, as in these domains have more services under them. So domains and the services that you can see here on this part, there is an option called as create a resource, using which you can actually create these resources as well. Then you have this dashboard. It is blue in color for now. Let me see whether the color changes. Yep, as you can see, the color has changed. So if you double click on this dashboard, the color would change. So you can probably customize it to meet the needs. For now, let me just stick to the standard version, which is this. So you have the freedom of changing the color, and all the stuff that happens, the applications you launch, you can actually go ahead and have a picture of these things on your dashboard. How do you do that? Probably you can choose first of all which dashboard do you want to use. If you have multiple dashboards, you can do that. As you can see, this is one dashboard which has certain things pinned here. You can unpin those things and you can pin in all your applications to this dashboard. You can click on those applications and you have an option of pinning them to the dashboard. Next thing that you can do here is when you actually launch an application, there is this notification panel where you would be notified as in what has happened. If you've launched an instance maybe and you want your virtual machine or your application that is running on top of it to be on your dashboard, here you'd be given an option. Do you want to pin it to the dashboard? And you can say yes, and immediately it gets pinned on the dashboard. Now, what benefit does this particular thing serve? I mean, what would I get if I actually go ahead and pin it here? The thing is, based on your business model, I mean, this is a fairly simple demo, so we do not have too many applications that we are talking about. But as your business grows, probably you might be dealing with a number of servers, a number of applications. So you might want particular information which is readily accessible to you. So you can probably pin those things on your dashboard. You get stats on those dashboards. If there are certain insights, you can actually have a plugin for analytics, which gives you reports and all those things. It readily integrates with Power BI, which is a very powerful data visualization tool using which you can actually have all the insights that you need. So yes, this is what the dashboard is. You have all the options here. You can create a new dashboard. You can upload files, download files. You can edit it, share the stuff that is there on your dashboard. You can probably maximize the screen size as well, clone certain dashboards and delete it here and here. So when you talk about dashboards, you have all the features. Now this is your cloud shell, guys. So what does a cloud shell do basically? So when I say a cloud shell, as I've already mentioned, you have your portal using which you can launch applications and you can do all the stuff right away. But at times you might be required to use command prompt. You might be required to hard code certain things. And how do you do that? You click on Cloud Shell where you can use it through the command prompt medium as well. Cloud Shell is the command prompt which is provided by Microsoft Azure. Apart from that, you have settings where you can actually go ahead and modify the settings. As you can see, this is the theme. You can change the theme here as well if you want. Some other features which you'd want to explore, you can just go ahead and explore all the settings, delete certain settings, private dashboards as well. That boils down to your requirement. If you are unable to figure certain things on yourself or on your own, you'd want to actually go ahead and check in what the support has to offer to you as well. Feedback, you can submit feedback whether you're happy or not. And this is your account. If you click on this link, whether changing your passwords and stuff like that, all those things would be taken care of here. So guys, yeah, this is pretty much the dashboard. I mean, you can click on these services and you can just explore those services. If you have a particular requirement, you can type it here. Say if I type Azure bot service, if there is something or any service that is related to this, any documents as well, that would be popping up here, and you can actually go ahead and direct or redirect yourself to those services from this mode as well. So, yep, this is pretty much the interface, guys, the portal which I wanted you people to see. But let's not keep it this basic for now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create something. So if I click on this create option, it gives me an option of the stuff. I mean, I can choose, say, for example, for now it says Windows Server VM, which means that it would launch a virtual machine, guys, which is Windows Server 2016 VM. Now, let me tell you what a VM is for people who are completely new. This might be basic for people who have some experience of cloud computing and they might wonder as in why am I talking about these small little things, but probably we have people around who are completely new. So for them, I might get into the details of certain basic topics as well. So when you talk about a virtual machine, what we do is suppose I am running a particular application and it is supported by a particular operating system, say Windows in this case. So I want my architecture to support that particular operating system, right? But when you talk about larger applications, you might not always work on a particular environment. Your environment might change. So what cloud computing does is it readily lets you launch these virtual machines that can deal with different environments. And yet all these virtual machines can be under one network and they can stay connected under one VPC or one virtual network basically. So yes, you can run multiple environments, you can have multiple applications running on different platforms and stuff like that. So this is one service that lets you do that. That is virtual machines offered by Microsoft Azure. And you have something called as web app, which lets you launch web applications. It is more platform as a service kind of an application. So what is a platform as a service application? Here, a complete platform is provided to you by a vendor. You just enter in certain details and it does everything for you. It launches virtual machines. I talked about having different environments, right? So when you click on a virtual machine and create one using Microsoft Azure, you have to specify details like the security group, IAM users, what network it lies under, and then you have to go ahead and manually install softwares, run your applications on top of it. But when you use something as platform as a service, what it does is it launches all this platform already. So your VM basically, which I talked about, is your infrastructure as a service where just the infrastructure is given to you, and on top of it, you do everything. But in PaaS, your vendor does everything for you. They launch this instance in the background, all the services that I mentioned, as in assigning security groups, security, IAM users, assigning it a network, all these things are taken care by a vendor. Even the platform that you choose, that is set up by your vendor. All you do is you just put in your data there. So this is platform as a service. So when you talk about Microsoft Azure, your web apps, basically when you create a web app, it is a PaaS service. All you have to do is just go ahead and enter a name, say sample app for me. You have to select the subscription. For now, it is the company's account that I'm using. It would create a resource group on its own, as you can see. And then all I have to say is create. So it has selected an operating system. Whether it wants to use a code or a Docker image, it is up to it, right? So it would take care of everything that is happening here, guys. My application would be launched right away. As you can see, I have been notified already that the deployment is in progress. It might take maybe half a minute or minute and a half maybe for this deployment to complete. I mean, all the processes that I talked about, those are happening in the background right now. And once those processes complete, I can actually go ahead and launch my application. So this would be a very basic application, guys. And as I've already mentioned, when you have a dashboard, it would ask you, do you want to pin your application to the dashboard? And if I say yes, it would pin it there directly. Let's hope that it happens quicker. See, it says pin to the dashboard. I would say yes. And there you go. It has been pinned to the dashboard. I can delete it, unpin it, and do whatever I want to. I can click on it and the application would open for me. So this is what the interface does. It gives me certain options, guys. I can check in the activity log, what all has happened in this application. If I click on this icon, it would give me the information. The operations, see, this is the operation name, that is write sites. So it has written a site. Access controls, who gets to control this application in particular. If you need a quick start guide, you can come here. Deployment slots, you can take a look at that as well. Application settings, you can click on this and you'd be getting all the settings. If you want to make a change to that, you can do that as well. The version, what application are you using and stuff like that. configuration preview. Click on this, certain other details would be given. So what framework are you using and stuff like that. Authentication process, guys, if you click on this icon, it would give me details about that as well. So if I scroll down, I come here, I have quite a few other things which I can actually look at. So if you are interested in these things, you can just come here and explore as in what is happening here. So this is pretty much it. I mean, the application has been launched. So if you take a look at it, it would give you details. What is the resource group that you're using? What is the URL? Where is it located? It is located in central US, guys. So see, I'm based in India right now and I've launched an application at a data center based in USA. So that is what you can do. And if you click on this link, it would tell you that your application is up and ready. So yes, a simple application has been created. So this interface, that is Microsoft Azure's portal, is fairly easy to use, fairly nice to use, and there are quite a few things which you can do. I've talked about certain basic things only. There are quite a few things that you can explore. I would suggest that you do go ahead and explore all these resources. As you can see that this has been done. If you want to take a look at some of the services here, you can actually go ahead and say all services, and it would give you details about all the services, all the resources. Yes, you click here and you have all the resources that are available to you. You can actually go ahead and modify your search as well. You can decide which resource group you want to view your data into. For now, I have these many resource groups that are there, which are running because this is an account that belongs to someone else. So this is my resource group. I can actually go ahead and select which resource groups I want to use to shortlist this data. Here's the information about all the resources. You can modify them, delete them, work on those, and do all the stuff that is required. If you go back to the dashboard, you would be taken here. If you open, you have all the other information again, diagnosis, application insights. You can install certain plugins that give you all these insights as well. For now, one more thing that you need to know is if there are certain applications that might charge you on the longer run, you'd want to get rid of those resources once your usage is done. You can just go ahead and delete those resources as well. Type the name of the app. It says it is sample app for me if I'm not wrong. There you go. You can just go ahead and delete this application and it will delete that application for you guys. It's fairly simple, guys. The application has been deleted as well. So yes, you're free to actually go ahead and explore this particular portal. And I hope that you'd be having a lot of things to do. As far as this particular session goes, this was what my aim was, to introduce you to these basic things, and which I feel I've done. In case if you feel that I might have missed out on certain things, you might put those in the comment section, and probably next time when we do have a session on this, we can have a discussion on that as well. If you did like this video, make sure that you like this video and stay subscribed to Edureka's YouTube channel. As far as this particular session goes, guys, I would be resting it here. Thank you. Bye-bye.
I hope you have enjoyed listening to this video. Please be kind enough to like it, and you can comment any of your doubts and queries, and we will reply them at the earliest. Do look out for more videos in our playlist and subscribe to Edureka channel to learn more. Happy learning!